Magic and technology, voodoo dolls, chance and electricity. We're making weird science. Ooh. Fantasy and microchips, building from the script. Something different, we're making weird science. Ooh, from the heart and from the hand. Why don't people understand? Weird. Weird science. Weird science. Ooh.
So right off the bat, the document jumps into this Rubik's Cube thing.
Yeah.
Apparently there are and this is crazy, 43 quintillion possible combinations on a Rubik's Cube. 43 quintillion. It's almost impossible to even imagine a number that big.
Yeah, that's a lot of combinations.
Right. So they use that as a starting point to talk about market data. It's like saying, hey, market data is complex. There are tons of possibilities, just like with a Rubik's Cube.
And then they bring in the idea of speed cubing. You know, those people who can solve a Rubik's Cube in seconds.
Oh yeah, I've seen those videos. It's insane.
Right. So they connect that to trading. They say traders, they actually call them cubers, are using their algorithms, which are their trading strategies, based on cube notation, which they compare to chart patterns on a chart.
So reading the market is kind of like reading the patterns on a scrambled Rubik's Cube.
Yeah, for sure. And those different permutations of the cube, they represent how the market moves up and down, all those different possibilities.
Okay, I'm starting to see the connection here.
And get this, they even talk about how within the Rubik's Cube itself, there's this mathematical link between the core of the cube and the centerpieces. They think that might mirror some basic fundamental thing about how the market works.
Wow, that's deep.
Right. And then this is where it gets kind of weird. The numbers 9 and 26, they pop up in Ichimoku, which is a popular trading indicator, and also in the math behind a Rubik's Cube. It's a weird coincidence, right? Plus, you've got the 9 Enneagram personality types, and then there are 26 letters in the alphabet. Makes you think,
For sure. And, okay, this is the part that really got me. They talk about how those speed cubers, when they're doing those crazy fast moves, are actually mimicking the way market makers place their orders.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
It's wild, right? Market makers are basically the big players in the market. They make sure there's always someone to buy or sell from, and they make money off the difference in those prices, the spread.
Right, and those speed cubers with their super efficient algorithms are basically mirroring that whole process. It's like they're solving the market in a way.
So how does that connect to Rubik's Algo specifically?
Well, the document says that just like those market makers are sequencing their orders strategically, Rubik's Algo has these things called perm algorithms, which are their trading strategies. And these are supposed to pick out those profitable sequences of market moves. They work best in what's called mean reverting markets.
Mean reverting, right. That's where the price tends to go back to an average over time. So these algorithms are looking for those times when it moves away from the average, betting that it'll come back.
Exactly. And the document's pretty bold about it. It says, straight up, that it's actually the market itself that makes the profit, not just your indicators.
Interesting. So your indicators are just a tool to help you understand what the market's doing.
Yeah, like a lens to see it more clearly. And then they get into this thing called VSQC. I guess you could call it a visual language.
Oh yeah, VSQC.
Yeah, it's designed to make those underlying forces in the market easier to see.
More intuitive, I like that.
Yeah, exactly.
So how did they come up with this whole system? Where did it come from?
Well, they say they did this huge study of all these indicators on TradingView. 6 Sigma, they called it.
Wow, that's hardcore.
Yeah, and they really dug into PineScript, which is the programming language they use on TradingView.
So basically, they analyzed a ton of existing tools and data.
Oh yeah, and they use some pretty advanced AI too, like large language models, to help make sense of it all. And then, get this, they even used game design principles to test their algorithms.
Game design, that's really different.
Yeah, super creative, right? But it seems like it worked. They say this whole process took over a year to refine,
yeah.
And it all led to their Market Cipher Z indicators, which they actually make available for free.
Free! That's pretty generous.
Right. They're all about open source, which we'll talk about more later.
Okay, cool. There was also this idea about restricted traders and restricted indicator coders being more profitable.
Yeah, that was a good point. They're basically saying that the most successful traders usually have very specific rule-based strategies. So if you can like define those rules really clearly, it actually helps the indicator coders make better tools.
More targeted tools.
Exactly. Because they know exactly what they need to achieve.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, let's talk about the person behind all of this, the creator.
Stupid Bitcoin.
Yeah, stupid Bitcoin. I mean, what a name, right? But apparently this person has a background in like sound design, game development, and AI engineering. A pretty diverse skill set.
Yeah, multi-talented.
Definitely. And they spent a whole year working on this super trend ultimate project intelligent design, which is basically Rubik's Algo.
Right, and they use a combo of open source code and this really advanced LLM, a large language model.
Oh, what's cool is that they say they didn't just want the LLM to predict the market, which a lot of people are trying to do.
Yeah, everyone wants to predict the future.
Right. But they wanted it to actually understand how the market works at a fundamental level.
Yeah, like get into the nitty gritty.
Exactly. And then there's this whole personality angle. They take those 9 Enneagram types and combine them with the Myers-Briggs stuff to make this personality matrix specifically for traders.
Yeah, that was cool.
Right. Because they're saying that how you trade is really connected to your personality. Like your discipline, your doubts, your motivations, all of that plays a role.
Oh yeah, for sure. Trading psychology is a big deal.
Totally. And to be clear, the document does have this S2PID disclaimer, which makes it very clear that nothing they're saying is financial advice.
Right. They're not telling you what to do. It's just like presenting their research and their system.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just so people know, the research involved analyzing over 100 different trading indicators.
Yeah.
And then like filtering them and refining them using AI. They also did a ton of demo trading to test it all out.
Yeah, and they even mention looking at a bunch of YouTube channels and trading publications.
Yeah.
Really trying to cover all their bases.
Makes sense. So the overall idea is that Rubik's Algo is supposed to help traders understand themselves better, like how their own psychology might affect their trading decisions.
Yeah, self-awareness is key, right?
Absolutely. Now, to explain all of this, they use a bunch of analogies, which I thought were really helpful.
Oh yeah, the analogies were great.
The main one is this Blackjack card counter analogy. So just like a card counter changes their bets based on, what cards are left in the deck, Rubik's Algo is supposed to help traders be more adaptable, like change their strategies depending on the market conditions.
Yeah, it's about being flexible, not rigid.
Right. And then there's another one with how fast you can solve a Rubik's Cube. Those speed cubers, they don't just randomly twist the pieces. They use specific algorithms, right? Sequences of moves to solve it as fast as possible.
Right, they have a system.
And Rubik's Algo is kind of like that. It's about breaking down the complexities of the market into these simpler, more manageable steps so you can be more efficient.
Makes sense.
And then they bring the blackjack analogy back again, this time for risk management. So, but using those personality tests, the Enneagram and Myers-Briggs, the system is supposed to give you insights into your own risk tolerance, how much risk you're comfortable with.
Yeah, like knowing if you're naturally more cautious or more of a gambler.
Exactly. And that's compared to the card counter, knowing the odds of drawing certain cards so they can bet smarter.
Interesting.
And of course, the Rubik's Cube keeps coming up as a central analogy. They see it as this model for all the different permutations or patterns that can happen in the market. And remember that VSQC thing, that visual language?
Oh yeah, VSQC.
They say it's a way to actually see how market makers are solving the market through their orders. Kind of like seeing the algorithms they're using.
That's wild, like seeing their moves.
Right. And they even tie back to Ikimoku, saying those numbers 9 and 26 have this mathematical link to the Rubik's Cube, which supposedly helps traders process it better.
Less mental strain.
Exactly. Okay, let's get into the personality stuff more. They're really big on using the Enneagram and Myers-Briggs.
Yeah, they think it's super important.
And the goal is to figure out what your weaknesses are as a trader based on your personality. And then they say their indicator code can help you overcome those weaknesses.
Tailored solutions. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, right. So if you have a certain personality type that makes you, too impulsive or too risk averse, they can create indicators that basically help you counterbalance that.
It's like a personalized trading coach.
Yeah, kind of. And they even connect the idea of Enneagram wings, those neighboring types that influence your main type, back to the Rubik's Cube.
Oh yeah, that was clever.
Right. They're saying that just like understanding all the different faces and edges of the cube helps you solve it, knowing the nuances of your personality can give you a better understanding of your trading behavior.
Deep, man. Deep.
Right. And then they break down each of the 9 Enneagram types in detail, like what their strengths and weaknesses might be as traders and how they can improve.
Yeah, that was really interesting.
For sure. And they even have a specific framework for a few types, like types 1, 3, and 6, using this problem action solution model.
To help them be more successful.
Exactly.
Yep.
And they go through like what the problem might be, how to take action, what solutions to use. It's very personalized. The whole idea seems to be that it's like understanding your own personality is the foundation for becoming a better trader.
I can definitely see that.
Me too. Okay, so let's move on to the tech behind all of this. The document talks a lot about how all their code is open source.
Yeah, transparency is key for them.
Right. And they combine that open source code with their LLM, that large language model we talked about earlier.
Which they trained on, like tons of data.
Oh yeah, tons of data, stuff about how banks trade, years of text data about trading, and even those Rubik's Cube and Blackjack analogies.
There's all the personality stuff.
Right, it's all in there. And they say this LLM can help create indicator code that basically prevents you from making those classic mistakes that your personality type is prone to.
Like protecting you from yourself.
Exactly. They also talk about using like Six Sigma techniques and game design theory to make sure their algorithms are really solid.
Thorough testing.
Oh yeah. And they do a lot of demo trading to see how it works in like simulated market conditions.
Putting it through its paces.
Right. Now this is where things get a little controversial.
Oh yeah, the inversion narrative.
Right. They basically say that because their code is open source, it might cause some problems with existing brokers and educators because a lot of them rely on those like proprietary indicators and systems.
Which usually aren't free.
Right. And they also point out that AI written code doesn't have copyright protection like, human written code. So they think that makes some people nervous because it could disrupt the whole industry.
Shake things up.
Exactly. They call it the inversion narrative because they think it's kind of backwards. Like people might be discouraged from using better technology because it threatens the existing way of doing things.
Interesting take.
Right. And they think this might be why a lot of new tech in trading gets rejected before people even really look at it.
Because it's seen as a threat.
Right. But they're still big believers in open source. They say combining it with their LLM can really improve how we develop trading tools because the AI can analyze and improve the code way faster than humans can.
And they even talk about using this for robots in the future, like home robots that can help you plan your trades and even code your own indicators.
Who knows what the future holds, right?
Sure, anything's possible.
Exactly. So getting into the actual tools they provide, they've got not one, but 3 different mini LLMs, which shows how versatile their technology is.
Yeah, they're branching out.
Right. They've got one for traders, of course, but also one for writers and one for people who play those role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Right. And then there's their Market Cipher Z suite of indicators, all open source and free to use.
Which is awesome.
Totally. They have names like Lichty Heat Map, Market Cipher EZ, Market Cipher Z, Market Cipher Q, Optimus Prime, Megatron. I mean, they definitely went for like a cool factor there.
Yeah, the names are memorable.
For sure. So the Lichty Heat Map, that one's supposed to help you see potential liquidity levels across different time frames. And it's customizable, so you can adjust it to how you trade.
That's useful.
Yeah. And then they have all these parameters for their smart tools. There's vector length, which is like how far back the calculations go. The default is 9, which they recommend. Then there's maximum length, which controls how complex the calculations are. They actually relate it to like how fast you can solve a slow Rubik's Cube, which I thought was funny.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
Right. And then there's the accelerator multiplier, which basically controls the speed and sensitivity of their, dynamic matrix calculations. And momentum window sets the look back period for their AI money flow momentum indicator. It's a mouthful, I know.
Lots of technical terms.
Yeah, but basically they're just ways to adjust how the indicators work. Then they have this whole smart profit concept to give examples of like how to calculate your profit, taking into account things like leverage, fees, price targets, all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's all about having a clear strategy and sticking to it.
Sounds disciplined.
Right. And they briefly mentioned this pick-two matrix, which is apparently important for like big players like market makers and even governments. I didn't totally get that part, but it sounded interesting.
Yeah, it was a bit over my head too.
And then this is where it gets really specific. They have this section called World Leaders, which is all about applying Rubik's Algo to Bitcoin.
Oh yeah, Bitcoin.
They're basically saying that their system is perfect for like countries that are holding Bitcoin in their reserves because it helps them understand the market, manage risk, and even see how their own actions might influence the price.
That's big.
Yeah, it's a bold claim. They even talk about how this could be used for like Tesla robots in the future to manage national Bitcoin reserves.
Wow, that's thinking ahead.
Right. Although they do say they're not connected to Tesla in any official way.
Just a vision for the future.
Exactly. And then they give a bit of background on Ichimoku, which is that Japanese charting technique that uses the numbers 9 and 26, just like Rubik's Algo. They point out that it took years to develop Ichimoku, just like their system.
So they're drawing a parallel there.
Right. Then in the About US section, they kind of summarize everything, talking about the Rubik's Cube and Blackjack analogies, the connection to Ichimoku, all that stuff.
Tying it all together.
Exactly. And then in the About You section, they have this thing about the False Claims Act, which is like a law that lets you report fraud against the government. I guess they're saying if you see something, say something.
Interesting.
Right. Then in the humanities section, they go back to this inversion narrative idea, saying that financial empowerment can help people break free from that. They even link it to like market maker profits, suggesting that understanding how those profits are made can give you an edge.
Leveling the playing field.
Right. And then at the very end, they list all their evolving mini LLMs. Even something called Rubik's Law that seems to be about law and stuff. It's pretty diverse.
Pushing the boundaries.
For sure. So, to sum it all up, Rubik's Algo is a pretty unique and ambitious way to approach trading. It combines technical analysis with personality psychology, using these like cool analogies to Rubik's Cubes and Blackjack, and all powered by AI.
It's definitely outside the box thinking.
Yeah, definitely. And the main takeaway seems to be that understanding yourself as a trader is just as important as understanding the market.
Know thyself. Right.
Exactly. And that brings us to our final thought for you. If trading is like solving a complex puzzle, maybe the most important algorithm you need isn't about charts or indicators, but about understanding your own inner Rubik's Cube. Your personality, your biases, your emotions. Food for thought, right? We encourage you to check out the Rubik's Algo Spring 2025 document for yourself. It's a wild ride, but you can just learn something new about yourself and the market along the way.
Yeah, definitely worth exploring.
Magic and technology, voodoo dolls, chance, weird science. Behind bolted doors, things I've never seen before. Weird science, not what teachers said to do. Ooh, bits and pieces. Weird science. Ooh, bits and pieces. Not what teachers said to do. Living tissue, making dreams come true. Weird